Hello YouTube, it's Ram from Ramen Noodles TCG, and today I played in a Heart of the Underdog tournament. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Heart of the Underdog, it is a Konami-supported alt format where each local scene creates their own custom ban list so that rogue decks can have their chance to shine. Now, I played in the Weenie Hut tournament at First Capital Gaming in York, Pennsylvania. I will have a link to the ban list down in the description so that you have context for the list that I played and the format as a whole. So how the ban list works is basically it's overlaid on top of the current ban list. We used the January list because the April list was too new and they would have had to change the Weenie Hut ban list to accommodate that. So I heard about this tournament only a week ago, so I didn't have time to order cards, so I had to work with what I had. So before I get into the deck profile, I want to shout some people out. So first of all, I wanted to shout out Mike, the Dragon Maid player, for telling me about this event. I wanted to shout out my friend Aiden for hooking me up with the Tenyi cards. I borrowed some of his stuff, and that really came in handy. And I wanted to shout out Deal Me in Games for being a really good store. They had a lot of the Tenyi stuff I needed, so I bought some stuff from there. And I wanted to help everyone. I wanted to thank everyone who helped me test. So my friend Isaac and the rest of the boys on the Discord, Vang and Lost G. Their testing really helped me learn this deck and get a better understanding of what is good in the format. So I was either going to play this, Evil Eye, or Adamantipator. I decided to go with Tenyi. I thought that was the best meta call. Yeah, Tenyi's really good. So let's get right into the deck. So if you're not sure what Tenyi does, basically all of the Tenyi monsters are extenders. They have one effect that special summons themselves from the hand when you control no effect monsters. And while you control a non-effect monster, they have a second effect to banish themselves from the hand or graveyard to do a piece of upside. So let's get into the Tenyi monsters. So starting off with the ignition effect Tenyis, we have 3 Ashuna. This is your main starter. This summons one from deck. We have 3 Vishuddha. This is removal. It bounces a card your opponent controls. And we have Adhara. This is the main tuner, but the only tuner. It banishes itself to add a worm back to your hand. So you can recycle a Shuna with this and get a nice resource loop going. You'd never play any less than 3 of these. Absolutely mandatory. Now, for the level 4 Tenyis, these are less important. You don't need to play 3 of these. I played 1 Nahata, 2 Maputa, and 3 Shitana. Now, these are trigger effects. Essentially, they act as protection for your Tenyis, your non-effect monsters, rather. So, Shitana is destruction protection. When your monster is destroyed, your non-effect monster, you can banish the Shitana to bring it back and then pop a monster your opponent controls. This can be used both offensively and defensively. You can crash your monster into something, for example, to trigger the Shitana to pop another guy and then swing with your monster again. This is really useful, but it's also good defensively to just protect yourself from getting punched over. A lot of times in Tenyi, you're just ending on a non-effect monster that doesn't do a whole lot, so you need these guys to have some protection, really give a backbone to your strategy. But these guys are all, obviously they're searchable. You can summon them off of Adhara, so you don't need to max out on them. Maputa negates the activation of effects that target your non-effect monsters. This is really good. A lot of people don't see this coming. And yeah, it's really nice. I thought I needed the second one, and I think the second one definitely came up. In the grind game, the second one is really good to have. Maybe I could have cut a Shitana. I never really needed the third one. but it was good to have, I suppose. And the one Nahata, this is just a battle trick. It boosts your non-effect monsters by 1500 attack. I'm glad I didn't play more than one of this. I never really needed more than one. But yeah, it was a good to have as a nice piece of utility. Moving on to the Tenyi spells, I am playing the 1 Flawless Perfection, the 3 Vessel, two Heavenly Dragon Circle, and 2 Foolish. Now, Vessel is an important searcher. This enables a lot of 2-card combos. So essentially, it's Foolish Burial for worms, but if you have a non-effect monster on your field, you can add a Tenyi after. So yeah, this is a lot of 2-card combos. If you open just a random name, this gets you access to Adhara, which is really important. Or it gets you access to Ashuna, excuse me. And this can dump some generic worms that extend your combos that I'll talk about later. Heavenly Dragon Circle is a quick play searcher. It searches any worm. Back when I thought Protoss was legal, I was like, yo, I can search Protoss and win games, easy. Protoss go crazy. But Protoss is not legal because we use the January list. But it's still a good searcher. This can help you dodge pieces of interaction. And it also is the only way to search your Tenyi spell traps. So the second effect of this card banishes itself from the graveyard to search any Tenyi card, but it's only 1 effect per turn, so you can't use both in the same turn. I only played 2 of this. I just didn't own a 3rd one. I played Foolish Burial Goods to send it to the graveyard so I can get the search for spells and traps, such as Flawless Perfection. Now, Flawless Perfection makes sure non-effect monsters unaffected by monster effects, and when your opponent special summons a card, you get to draw 2. Flawless Perfection is really nice to have going first. It's solid. I only play it as a one-of. It's a searchable one-of. It's not super searchable, but if I played more than one, I would definitely brick on it, and I wouldn't want it in game 1 for going second. It's just not that great. But yeah, Flawless Perfection was a nice one-of. It put in some work today. Speaking of quality one-ofs, we have Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi. This is an Omni-Negate counter trap. It's searchable off of Circle. That's why we play it. It's good. You sign it out going second, obviously. I resolved this a couple times today, but it wasn't insane just because you can't get to it consistently because you only have a few ways to get your Circle. And the honorary Tenyi, we have Mare. This is a tuner that you can special from the graveyard with your link to, and it can drop its level by 1 to spawn a token, and you can do this thrice per turn. So you make this guy level 4, it's a level 4 tuner, you spawn 3 tokens, you can synchro this with a level 4 Tenyi to make your Draco Berserker, your level 8 synchros, rather, any level 8. And then you can make a link 3. Yeah, this is the reason you can make some very formidable boards. It's great. It can be a little bit of a brick. Sometimes you set it out going second, but it's good, I promise. It helps you with OTKs as well, so most of the time I kept it in. It was really good. So I had quite a bit of space for a non-engine, so I played a fair number of hand traps. So for my hand trap lineup, I wanted tuner hand traps so I can make synchros. Tenyi doesn't really use its normal summon, so a lot of times you're able to just normal summon a hand trap to use as a tuner to make synchros with. So yeah, I kept that in mind when figuring out my hand trap lineup. I went with 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Ghost Spell, 3 Effect Veiler, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. Now, Droll and Nib and Shifter are banned, so these are the best hand traps in the format, in my opinion. Well, one of them is in my side deck, but we'll get to that later. So Ash is good in basically every matchup. It's especially important in this format because one of the top decks is Magispector, The Magispector gimmick is that their main deck guys are untargetable, so you can't interact with them via Valor and Imperm, so you have to use Ash on their main deck searchers. Ash is basically never dead. Valor and Imperm are sometimes dead, but they're alright. You sometimes want to side out Imperm going first because of Flawless Perfection. You want to draw into hand traps off of Flawless, so it's dead. Imperm is dead if you draw it off of Flawless Perfection, so I sided this out going first, especially to put in some side deck cards, which I'll talk about later. Yeah, but Imperm put in some work today. These are just solid hand traps. Bell was adequate. I wanted to play Bell over something like Crow in the main. So I was prepping a lot for the Tenyi mirror. I thought Bell and Crow were pretty good in the Tenyi mirror, but I liked Bell a little better because it stops my opponent's DD Crow. Yeah, this did an okay job. This stopped a bit of extension from my opponent in a few matchups. It was alright. It worked pretty well against like Adamantipator and Goblin Biker. It was fine. Now, I played 3 copies of... I played 3 Droplets and 1 Called By to round up the main deck. This was 40 cards. I wanted to keep this to 40. Droplet, I think, is really good in this deck, especially because I have a lot of graveyard effects. And flipping my monsters face down, if my opponent does that, I can't keep specialing Tenyis. So I wanted to make sure I had an out to that. In matchups like Ninja and Paleozoic, I thought that was pretty important. Yeah. Droplet was good today. I sided it out a lot. You don't want to keep this in going first. It doesn't get you great value, especially after you've made your board. When you make your board with Tenyi, you consolidate your resources oftentimes into either like a synchro or a singular non-effect link monster, or sometimes both, depending on your hand. But you don't have a lot of material to send for Droplet unless you have Flawless. So yeah, I side this out going first almost all the time. But yeah, it's a good going second card. And Called By is Called By. Just good hand trap insurance. Moving on to the extra deck, I am playing 3 copies of Monk of the Tenyi. This is the most important card in the extra deck by far. Now, Monk is just a non-effect link 1 that you can make with any Tenyi. This is how you start basically all of your plays. You special a Tenyi, you make Monk, and then you can keep specialing Tenyis. So, Tenyi's grind game is essentially limited to the amount of non-effect link monsters you have in your extra deck. So, Adhara is able to keep recycling Ashuna, but if you can't keep generating non-effect monsters, you can't do that. So, you'll run out, your grind game essentially runs out most of the time when you run out of Monk, which can be a bit awkward. There's certain scenarios, like when I was doing test hands and I was testing combos, making the second Monk on turn 1 helped me play around a few specific hand traps. Like, it helped me play around DD Crow by keeping an extra non-effect monster on the field, but I didn't want to do that in the actual event. I did that during round 1, and it cost me a game, just because I ran out of Monks, which you don't want to run out of Monks. I would run 5 Monk if I could, but you can't, so you got to be careful with how you use these. So the 3 Monk, for the Link 2s, I'm playing 2 Shaman. Shaman can discard a card to revive a worm. This is how you do your Mare Mare combo. You Shaman revive Mare Mare, and then you do that line. When a non-effect monster does battle, it can pop a card your opponent controls. This also locks you out of effects of extra deck monsters, except Tenyi monsters. This doesn't really matter because almost all of the extra deck monsters are Tenyi, but it's just something to note. Shaman is how you bridge the gap between your Link 1 non-effect monster and your Link 3s, but it's a bit vulnerable to hand traps. Yeah, it's vulnerable to basically every hand trap in the format. So yeah, oftentimes, especially in going second scenarios, I get a bit scared when trying to make Shaman because it's not a non-effect monster, so you can't protect it with things like Mapura or Shatana. So you have to be really careful with this because it's a pretty big choke point at times. I've thought about playing a third one. I was testing 3. I never needed the third one, but I found myself getting close to needing a third one, but 2 was fine. But if you feel more comfortable playing 3, by all means, play 3. For Link 3s, I am playing 2 Berserker. This is the non-effect Link 3. The second one absolutely does come up. A lot of times you're making one of them turn 1, and you're using the second one to aid in your OTK on turn 3. Yeah, absolutely play 2. You don't need a third one, but 2 is just right. Now, for another Link 3, I am playing Draco Masters. So, Draco Masters is incredible removal. You can essentially link climb into this using basically 2 monks and a Tenyi, and then you can pop 2 cards your opponent controls and clear their board that way. It can be a bit awkward because after you make this, you basically only have an effect monster on the field, so it can be tough to extend from here, but it's great removal. I didn't summon it today, but this was really good in testing. For the Link 4, I am playing the 1 Saha Sarada. Now, Saha is an incredible boss. When you do your Mare Mare combo, you end on Saha, a 1 token, and Draco Berserker. So Saha gives all of your effect monsters targeting protection while you control a non-effect monster, and as a quick effect, it targets monsters your opponent controls and spawns tokens with the same attack that the monster you targeted had. So yeah, this is a great boss. It just constantly generates you link material throughout the course of the game, and it's big and strong, and it's just a really good, beefy guy. I like this card. I obviously never needed a second one, but it's good. I don't make it going second, it's more of a going first thing, but it's a solid piece of an end board. Onto some synchros. We have Draco Berserker. So Draco Berserker is the Tenyi synchro. It's an interruption, so when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can chain Draco Berserker to banish it. It doesn't negate, but banishing is still quite a powerful form of interaction. And it can attack twice. If you destroy a monster by battle, you can swing into another monster. It gains attack as well, so it's a great OTK enabler. Yeah, Draco Berserker is great. It's great in decks that aren't Tenyi as well. This is just a generally really good level 8 synchro in the format. After that, I have the Yang Xing squad. So I have Yazi, Bashia, and Xiaofeng. Yazi is great removal. It's untargetable, which is really good because you can get the pop effect off quite easily. It pops itself and a card your opponent controls, and then when it's destroyed, especially by its own effects, you just summon a worm from deck. It's really good to break your opponent's board and keep extending from there. Bashia is another great board-breaking synchro. It targets 2 cards your opponent controls and shuffles them into the deck. You make it with 2 attributes, so you get 2 shuffles. It's really nice. It can also revive your low-level Tenyis, which can come up. It comes up when you're trying to ladder into Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng, when you make Xiaofeng with Bashia and Adhara, you light lock your opponent. If you're playing against a light deck, this can be good. There weren't that many relevant light matchups. I just played Xiaofeng because it completes the set of Yang Xing synchros. I didn't really know what else to play in this slot. Maybe I could have played a second Draco Berserker, but I don't think anything else came up. I could cut this, but I don't know what I'd cut it for. The Sword Soul guys are all banned because Sword Soul is banned. I can't play Shen Shen because Virtual World is banned. If Virtual World was not banned, I'd be playing Virtual World. So yeah, that's a bit of a thinker there, but that's all right, I suppose. Now for some other generic extra deck options, I am playing Tornado Dragon. This is a worm, so I can make it under the Ashuna lock. You can make it pretty easily with 2 level 4 Tenyis. It's just backer removal. I never summoned it, but it's alright. And lastly, I'm playing a pretty saucy tech. I'm playing Lina the Light Charmer. So the idea behind Lina is, in the Tenyi mirror match, when your opponent drops Artifact Lancia, you can make Lina with Ashuna and another Tenyi to steal your opponent's Lancia and then drop the Lancia on your opponent's turn to Lancia them back. I expected a lot of Tenyi because this deck seems really strong. I was the only Tenyi player there today, which was a bit awkward, but I think it's better safe than sorry as far as having this kind of stuff. I think this was a pretty smart tech for the mirror, but I didn't play the mirror, so yeah. That was the extra. Let's move on to the side. So for the side deck, I played some more hand traps. I played 2 copies of DD Crow, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, 2 copies of Artifact Lancia, and 3 Crossout Designator as a nice addition to the hand traps. So I wanted to play hand traps that are good against me. So Crow and Lancia, these are my main crossout targets. Lancia is really good in the Tenyi mirror. It's good against like Evil Eye and stuff, but it's not that widely applicable. I only played 2 of this. It's not once per turn. I was going to play 3, but I was talked out of it, rightfully so. The Tenyi mirror was not something I needed to worry about. Yeah, something like DD Crow was much more applicable, and I'm glad I had a second Crow in here. Crow was solid. It's another good crossout target. Ogre was actually insane today. I expected this to be good against things like Abyss Actor and Magispector, which I expected to be 2 of the top decks. Being able to blow up the scales while they use their scale effects is really nice. It's a really nice form of interruption. This actually came up a lot against combo decks. When they would activate their monsters, I can just pop them to prevent them from extending further. Yeah, Ghost Ogre was crazy. I maybe should have played a 3rd one, actually. Lastly, for the side, I wanted some form of tributing removal, so I went with Santa Claus. So back when I was still in testing, I wasn't sure whether I was going to play this, Adamantipator, or Evil Eye. So Adamantipator requires its normal summon, and so does Evil Eye, so I bought 2 Santa Claus. I was testing with Santa Claus. I never really tried Lava Golem in Tenyi. It's probably good. But I tested with Santa Claus, so I just went with Santa Claus. I cited it in today. I never drew it. This is good against Burning Abyss. This is good against Nouvelle. Good against Evil Eye. It's just a good card, but never used it, unfortunately. So, onto some matchups. I played some pretty sloppy matches in rounds 1 and 2 against Batlin Boxer and Heroic Challenger, respectively. The Boxer player I dropped a game against because I wasted a monk and I ran out of monks. The Heroic Challenger player, I messed up my line and forgot to make Draco Berserker, which was really embarrassing. The guy probably could have OTK'd me in game 3, but he also flubbed his combo and missed the OTK. So yeah, it was a sloppy game on both ends, but I was able to take it down. In round 3, I really started to focus up and played a bit better. My opponent's hands weren't amazing, but neither were mine. And we ended up getting to a game 3, and I didn't have access to Ashuna because my opponent had a really good Ash. He ashed the Foolish Burial Goods to stop me from getting to the Circle Effect, which was a really smart play on his end. And yeah, I couldn't extend farther and got blown out by goblins. In round 4, I got absolutely slaughtered by Burning Abyss. So I can't keep up with a control deck like BA in the grind game. And when the opponent sets 4 back row, it's really hard to play through. Some forms of removal are really strong against Tenyi. Flipping removal, or just like flipping effects and stuff. Non-targeting removal is really good against Tenyi as well. So your Mapura and your Shatana only protect your non-effect monsters. So when you make things like Draco Berserker, they're very vulnerable to removal, which is quite unfortunate. Yeah, I just got mauled by Burning Abyss, which was, that happens. Tough matchups. So in round 5, I played against Adamancipator. I tested a lot of Adamancipator. I was preparing to play it. So I was really ready for this matchup. I knew exactly where to hit him with the hand traps, and I very much folded the guy. It was a fairly easy 2-0. Round 6 was a crazy match against Nouvelle. So Nouvelle was a pretty bad matchup for me because their interruptions tribute face-up attack position monsters on either side of the field, and I'm a Link deck, so tributing my Link monsters is pretty good. Some of it doesn't even target, but Droplet really came in clutch in that matchup, and it was really, really good. Flawless Perfection also helped as well. Yeah, I hit him with the hand traps and really was able to take it down. Yeah, so I finished X2 after 6 rounds. I didn't make top 8, I finished 14th. The decks that made top 8 were Speedroid, Abyss Actor, Predaplant, Tech Genius, Adamancipator, Magispector, Libromancer, and Plant Link. Yeah, Aroma Cynabalon. That also made top 8. Yeah, so it was quite a fun event. I'm really glad I played. And I will probably go back to First Capital Gaming in the future for more of these. So, if you want to see more Heart of the Underdog content in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.